Today, we are going to get into something that affects literally everything around us. How does a simple rock or a river or a gust of wind become the very foundation of our entire world? We're talking about resources and development. Let's dive in.
Just take a second, really try to picture that. A world with no fuel for cars, where water is a luxury, where the ground can't grow our food. It's a pretty grim picture, right? But it really forces you to think about the stuff that we totally depend on to live.
You know, it's easy to think of them that way. The sun just shines, the wind blows. They're just there for the taking, right? But is it really that simple? I mean, think about it. Is a chunk of coal underground even a resource if nobody has a clue how to use it for energy? The answer, it turns out, is way more interesting than you'd think.
So, here's our game plan for today. First, we're going to figure out what actually makes something a resource. Then, we'll sort them into different categories to see what we're working with. After that, we'll face the tough stuff, the problems of greed and misuse, before exploring the solution, sustainable development. We'll even look at a real-world example, and finally, bring it all back to what it means for you and me.
Okay, let's jump into that first big idea. What's the secret ingredient? What is the spark that turns a piece of the natural world into something valuable for all of us?
So on the surface, this definition seems pretty simple. If we can use it to meet a need, boom, it's a resource. But that little phrase, "can be used," is doing all the heavy lifting here. It's the critical link between something just existing and something actually being useful.
And this is the heart of it. For something to graduate from just being stuff to being a resource, it has to pass three really important tests. First, do we have the tech to actually get to it and use it? Second, does it make financial sense? You can't spend $1 billion to get $1 worth of value. And third, is it something our society is actually okay with using? These three things are the keys that unlock nature's potential.
This lays it out perfectly. I mean, for thousands of years, river water was just water. Great for drinking, great for watering crops. But then human ingenuity comes along with dams and turbines. And suddenly, that exact same flowing water is transformed into a totally new and powerful resource, hydroelectricity. Nature provides the ingredients, human beings are the chefs who figure out the recipe.
All right, so now that we've got a handle on what a resource actually is, how do we organize this gigantic global pantry of ours? Let's look at a framework that helps us make sense of it all.
We can basically sort resources in four main ways. First, by where they come from. Are they biotic, meaning from living things, or abiotic, from non-living things like rocks? Second, by exhaustibility. Is it renewable, like the sun, which isn't going anywhere, or non-renewable, like oil, which once you burn it, it's gone? Third, by ownership. Does one person own it, or a whole community, or even the whole world? And finally, by its status. Is it a potential resource we can't use yet, or one that's already developed and in use?
Let's make this real for a sec. That sunlight that's maybe warming up your room right now, it's renewable, right? Of course. It seems obvious, but it's a perfect little reminder that this isn't just some textbook idea. It describes the world happening all around us. So we have all these incredible resources born from this partnership between nature and human smarts. But what happens when we use them with only short-term profit in mind, without any thought for the future? Well, this gets us to the really messy part of the story.
And the consequences are, frankly, huge. When resource use goes unchecked, three big problems pop up. First, a few people get to use up a ton of resources. Second, wealth gets concentrated in just a few hands, which creates this massive divide between the rich and the poor. And third, we end up with global crises like climate change and pollution that affect every single one of us. That second point is pretty staggering when you see that some studies show the wealthiest 10% of people can be responsible for half of all consumption-based emissions. It's a huge imbalance.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the heart of the issue. The core problem isn't that the Earth can't provide for us, it's that our own systems of consumption and our priorities are out of whack.
So if greed and mismanagement are the disease, then what's the cure? Well, that question leads us to one of the most important ideas of our time: sustainable development.
Now, what's so brilliant about this is how simple and powerful it is. This is not about stopping progress, not at all. It's about being smart. It's basically a promise we're making to our kids and grandkids saying, hey, we're going to build a better life for ourselves, but we're not going to steal the tools you'll need to build your own. It's all about balance. And this isn't just some nice-sounding idea. It actually became a global mission. Way back in 1992, world leaders got together for the Rio Earth Summit, and what came out of it was something called Agenda 21, a massive action plan to make sustainability a reality. It was a huge moment where the whole world basically said, okay, we need to do this together.
So how does a big, complicated country even begin to put these grand ideas into practice? Let's zoom in on a case study and look at the challenges of resource planning.
And here it is, the fundamental puzzle for any large nation. You could call it nature's lottery. Resources just aren't spread out evenly. They show up in clumps, creating this incredibly complex map of have and have-not regions. And this map of India shows that perfectly. You've got a state like Jharkhand, which is loaded with minerals and coal. Then you have Arunachal Pradesh, with massive water resources for hydropower. And over in Rajasthan, it's blessed with incredible solar and wind potential. Each place is rich in one thing but might be poor in another. That's why smart, balanced, national planning isn't just a nice idea, it's absolutely essential.
And this right here is the big takeaway. Just having a mountain of coal or a huge river doesn't automatically make you prosperous. Real development happens when you have all three things working together: the natural resource, the technology to use it, and, crucially, the wisdom to have a plan for its fair and sustainable use.
Okay, so we've gone from the global stage down to the national level. But for any of this to actually work, that chain of responsibility has to come all the way down to us, to individuals. Let's bring it home.
You know, the craziest part is that for so many of our biggest problems, we already have the solutions. The problem is cutting down too many trees. The solution is planting more trees. The problem is soil washing away on hills. The solution is terrace farming. We know what to do. The real challenge isn't in the knowing, it's in the doing.
Let that one sink in for a minute. This isn't just a nice thing to do or a hobby for some people. It's a fundamental duty, a responsibility we have to the planet, to each other, and to everyone who will come after us.
And so we're going to end this by flipping the question back to you. Because whether it's in your house, in your community, or in your future job, you are a decision maker. The choices you make, big and small, are going to have an impact. So the question isn't if you'll make a difference, but what kind of difference you'll choose to make. What's your solution going to be?